Hello everyone, I want to thank you for joining me. Today we're going to talk about IELTS writing task 2, the essay, and we're going to talk about how to write the discussion essay or the agree-disagree essay. Okay, now let's get started. For this particular essay, the agree-disagree, you have several expectations, and there are 4 of them. Okay, the first one is to provide a clear opinion on the topic, and that's basically to agree or disagree with it. Then you want to provide clear support of your opinion, and you do this through main points, and those main points should be specific, and you should use relevant specific examples and relevant specific details. You also need to write at least 250 words, and I suggest you write more than that. A good range is somewhere between 250 to 325 words, okay, considering the time frame that you have. And then you should have clearly written paragraphs of appropriate format as follows, as you can see here on the slide. Now, for this particular task, you get 40 minutes. You should take no more than 8 minutes to plan your essay so you can get it down to less time because you want more time to write. So if you can do this in 5 minutes, you would have over 30 minutes to write. And then writing time, count on at least 30 minutes to write. Try to go for 35 minutes of writing time and then 2 minutes at the end to edit your work. And if you finish early, use that remaining time to edit, proofread, correct all the mistakes that you can find so that you can increase your band score. Now, planning the essay. Right, there's 5 steps for planning the essay, and these are it. First is to understand the essay prompt. Second is to rewrite the topic, and that's paraphrase the topic. Next is to write your thesis. And then step 4 is to brainstorm for your points, and then step 5 is to organize your points. And that's going to be important when it comes to organizing your body paragraphs. And I'll explain that later. Now, understanding the prompt, let's say we take this particular essay prompt here. Okay, the best way to make the road transport of goods safer is to ask drivers to take a driving test each year, okay? You want to first of all understand the topic, and you want to look for the basic topic that's stated. And it's basically here, annual testing of commercial drivers to ensure road safety. That's the basic topic, okay? So you're basically taking the topic and just putting it into a small phrase, okay? And then the viewpoint. There's always at least one viewpoint expressed in the topic. You might get 2 viewpoints. But it's important that you understand the viewpoints because you will have to mention them in your introduction, in your conclusion, and maybe even talk about them in your essay as well. So the viewpoint here is doing this will make roads safer, as you can see. Now, the remaining steps are as follows. You want to, first of all, paraphrase the topic. And the reason why you want to paraphrase the topic is, first of all, you may not understand the topic, and if you put it in your own words, you're more likely to understand it better. Second of all, this paraphrase gives you the basis of your first sentence. That's right, your first sentence, okay? And so you can play with it to fit into your first sentence. You have to introduce this topic, and that should be the first line of your introduction. So the paraphrase here for the topic is as you read, and then now for the thesis. Now, when it comes time for the thesis, you don't need to write a sentence. For this particular essay, just keep it to one word, either agree or disagree. And the reason why you don't want to write a sentence is because you don't have a lot of time. Just write agree or disagree. That's it. If you write that down, it's going to help keep you focused. And the reason why is everything you write after that has to support why you agree or why you disagree. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, Step 4 is brainstorming for points. Now, brainstorming, you want to come up with points. You're going to write down points as they come into your head. You don't want to judge them, you just want to write them down, okay? You don't want to spend a lot of time doing this. You want to do this until you know that you have all 3 points. And I really recommend that you have 3 points to discuss, because this will give you a much stronger essay, and it'll also help you get past the 250 word minimum, okay? So as you can see here, there are 3 points here, and then you want to organize your points in terms of strongest. Strongest point first, then next strongest, and then least strongest. And that's going to be the order of your body paragraphs, okay? So here the strongest point is going to be road conditions. That's going to be the first body paragraph. The third point will be private vehicle drivers, and that's going to be the least strongest point, okay? So that's the remainder of the planning steps. Now it comes time to writing. Now the writing time, the introduction requires these elements here, okay? And it's important that you have these elements, okay? Now there's 2 ways to write your introduction, and I have 2 examples here. The first sentence is the topic, the second sentence is thesis, and the third outlines, mentions the points that are going to be discussed, okay? These include road conditions, enforcement of traffic laws, and drivers of private vehicles, okay? So those are the points. For this particular essay, you used first example. Now, you could also, follow the case of the second example, okay? Where instead of you're listing your points, you're going to use an outline statement. And the outline statement is going to tell the reader exactly what you're going to do in the essay. So if you read this, it says, this essay will discuss 3 important factors and show how these are just as important for ensuring safety on the roadways. Okay, now let's move on to the body paragraphs. Now, you need a minimum of 2, but here I recommend 3 body paragraphs. And you want to have 1 body paragraph for each point, okay? And of course, as I mentioned, your body paragraphs are going to be based on, the order of them are going to be based on the strongest point first, body paragraph 1, all the way down to the weakest point, body paragraph 3. And so you're going to use what's called a single point body paragraph, okay? And so here, this is the type of format that you want to use. You want your first sentence, and your body paragraph should be a minimum of 5 sentences. They can be a little bit longer, but they should be a minimum of 5 sentences following this particular format. First sentence, you want to state what the idea is, what your point is. Then you want to give a reason. Then you give an example. Then you want to show the results or consequences, and then provide a conclusion. And that really wraps up the point and shows how it supports your thesis, okay? So that's how you write the body paragraph for this particular essay. And of course, this is the order in which you're going to have your body paragraphs show up. Okay, now here is an example of the first body paragraph. It talks about that first point, proper road infrastructure. It starts right off saying the most important factor. That first sentence is the point. It goes on to explain the point in several sentences. And then it also gives an example. Traffic signs not only inform drivers of speed limits and when to stop, but also of potential hazards. So giving an example of the need for certain infrastructure does, okay? And then it ends with a concluding sentence. Without proper infrastructure and maintenance, as you can see. So now let's look at body paragraph 2. This is the second body paragraph. And again, this follows the same structure. It starts off with stating the main point. It goes on to discuss the point. Now these are long body paragraphs. Your body paragraphs don't need to be this long. You certainly could write long body paragraphs, but keep in mind the length of time that you have, okay? You really need to keep that in mind, okay? So this is the second body paragraph. Again, it follows the same pattern. And now we have the third body paragraph. Again, this follows the same idea and same format. This is the format that you want to use for this particular essay in terms of your body paragraph. Now, let's move on to our conclusion. Now, our conclusion, writing a conclusion is very easy, just takes practice. Anyone can do it. Now, it just takes 4 steps. And step 1, you begin with a connector, such as to conclude or in conclusion. And keep in mind that the connector must be formal in tone. It's important that you use formal language because this is considered academic writing. Academic writing is formal. So you want to make sure that it stays formal. The step 2 is you want to restate your thesis from the introduction. So basically you're kind of copying, but not really copying the introduction. Okay, you're going to paraphrase basically topic and the thesis from your introduction. Then you're going to summarize your supporting points. Okay, that's step 3. And then you're going to give an additional opinion or call for action. This is the conclusion. Now, this doesn't have a very identifiable linker to start with, but in consideration of these 3 factors, that whole phrase itself is a linker. It basically ties it in, and their importance to road safety. So you don't need to use a regular linker like that, okay? But this is more an advanced skill. For most of you, it might be best to try to stick with the standard linkers, although don't be afraid to experiment, okay? This basically is a matter of style, and you do want to show, one thing for IELTS writing is you do want to be able to show, in terms of medical accuracy and range, you want to be able to show some elements of style, and that can help you score higher. But you don't want to go overboard on trying to be stylized, because that could get you in trouble in terms of using words wrong. So don't be afraid to experiment, but if you're having trouble, stick with what you know, okay? But here we have the linker in consideration of these 3 factors. That first line is basically summarizing the thesis. It's making a general statement of this. And then the second line is a restatement of the thesis, and then we go into the summary of the points. And then the final sentence is basically what's called a call to action. For those places where any of these factors are negligent, making improvements is crucial. That's a call to action. When you're suggesting that something be done, that's a call to action. In some of your essays, call to actions can be a great way to end your essay. Okay, so that is it for this video. Now for review, remember that the expectations are to provide for the following: that you have a clear opinion, you provide clear support using these 3 things, you want to write 250 words minimum, and you want to have clearly written paragraphs of the appropriate format, as you can see. And that's it. It's that simple. Just need to practice this. When you practice, you get better. And the more you practice, the quicker you're going to get better. And also when you get feedback too, from myself or from your instructor or someone who's good at writing. Okay, so it's also good to get feedback as well.